Okay, everyone. I think this is an exceptionally hard day to find parking. So we might have some stragglers coming in, but we have a lot to do today, and I want to get started. And first of all, if you're at a table and you look around, I hope what you're seeing is a mixture of community members and students. What do you guys think? Do you have students and community members at your table? If you don't, could you raise your hand? Let me see those hands. Those who have been around a long time know that I'm going to come and get you and move you, but hopefully you'll have gone through some of your lunch by then. Anyway, thank you to all of our community members for being here today, as well as our students. My name is Mindy Laval, and I am the founder of the Pay It Forward Luncheon Series. It's now celebrating our 10th year, hard to believe. In great part, it's because of a lot of you who have been with us for those 10 years, both community members, faculty, as well as students who have now graduated and have gone on and are coming back. So thank you all. On behalf of the Lyles Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, as well as Fresno State, we're really glad that you woke up this morning, looked at your calendars and said, I have Pay It Forward, and I'm excited about going there. I know what the community members did, saying, today's going to be my lucky day. I'm going to go find that parking spot. But trust me, being in this building is a lot easier to find parking than we've had in the past. So if you need the secret spots, anybody from the Lyles Center would be able to tell you that there's several different places you can park, but we do want to welcome you to come back 3 times a semester, which we hold the programs. I want to say a special thank you to the students that are here. How many of the students were gently nudged to be here by their teachers? Okay, show me the hands. I know it's you. I know you guys. Well, first of all, I think that the teachers were suggesting it. My hope is that you'll want to come back next time as well and that you'll find value today. I also want to welcome the students from McLean High School. Where's McLean? Are they here yet? There's one there. There's 2. We have a good group of students from McLean High School. How about the Endeavor Charter School? Where are they? Do I have them here yet? Maybe still trying to find parking, but we have a whole group from Endeavor. And Fresno City College. I know there's a group of you from Fresno City. Can you raise your hand so you can be acknowledged? Woohoo! Good job. You're all welcome. Spread the word. We'd love for you to come to our program. Most of the students received a raffle ticket. Please do not twirl it with your fingers, throw it on the ground, because at the end of today, you'll get a chance to win a nice prize, so hold on to that ticket. And I really want you to engage. The first part of our session today will be you enjoying your lunch for the next 10 or 15 minutes. I want you to enjoy each other, and I want you to get to know each other. We do have a couple tables here on the far side. One is, you can see Akil Kanodia. He's an entrepreneurship professor here on campus, and he's also responsible for and works with the Johansson Faculty Fellows. I know I have a few fellows in the room. Please stand up. We have an engineering fellow. We have communications and media. That might be, do we have, Lynn here from the business school. So we have fellows all over the campus that infuse the entrepreneurial mindset into their curriculum, and they also encourage their students to participate in events like this, and we're thrilled that they're here. And you can go back to the back after the program's over and meet Akil, and he can share with you more of the programs we're doing. I do want to announce that there are 2 awards that are sponsored by Claude Laval III. One is for research for professors. Akil has information back there. And there's another one for commercialization of an innovative idea. And that is also, there's information back at the table. And that award actually, the applications are open starting March 7th, I believe. So if you're interested in that, students, professors, it's a $10,000 award. So if you are actually starting a business, moving forward, you're scaling, or need some assistance, please go over there And I challenge you to learn more about these two possible awards. Very quickly, there are some new faces in the crowd, and I wanted to give you an idea of what Pay It Forward is all about. 10 years ago, I was asked to try to create a program that would bring students together with community members, and I had no idea what that should look like. But I did know that it needed to be interdisciplinary, and so that you'll know that we have students here from all aspects and areas of our university, from business to engineering to food science, to every corner, and we hope that the word will spread and more people will come. The goal was to bring those students together to meet community members. Again, that's why you're sitting at a table with students and community members, so that you have a chance to get to know each other and learn about each other. Our community members are as interested in learning about what's going on in Fresno State as I think our Fresno State students are about what's going on in the community. So make those connections. One of our goals for the last 10 years has been consistency and quality of an experience. So we've consistently held these 3 times a semester, even during COVID, which we did online. We will always try to hold these events, whether they have to be in person, which we love more, because you get more value out of it, or if by some chance we have to do it online. We will continue to try to offer these to you, and so look forward to them and spread the word. We have about 200 people registered for today, but the reality is I like to fill up this room, and there's a lot more space. So the more people that can come, the better off the program will be, so spread the word, both community members as well as students. I wanted to provide a sit-down lunch. How many of you eat on the go? I do. And oftentimes, or I'm eating at my desk. I rarely take the time, and trying better now, to sit down at a table and break bread with friends, with new friends, colleagues, and just take a minute to breathe, enjoy your meal, but most importantly, get to know somebody else. So trying to offer lunch has always been an important part of this program. And the third goal has been to bring in a speaker with roots to the San Joaquin Valley. We've sort of broadened up the potential for speakers, because we saw that there are speakers from all parts of our state and even outside that want to come and share their stories and their background and their journeys with the students. So we're very fortunate that we've always had great speakers from the very beginning. And those speakers are asked to speak very openly about their experiences and to share with you, that the students, what it's been like on their very specific journey. So those are really the 3 goals. So at this time, I'm going to give you an introduction of our wonderful speaker, but he's going to prompt you and give you a little bit homework during the remainder of our luncheon. So Tim Dilley, can you come up and share with what you'd like our students to do and our community members?
All right, so I'm going to give you, there's your phone, Wendy. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. I attended one of these events in November last year, and I remember that Mendy, during the lunch, put forth a question for the tables to work on as they ate their meal. So this is my version of that. So I'm gonna run a little caption contest here, the comic caption contest. So here we have a comic, and I want you, as you're having your lunch, to come up with the caption. So we have 2 fellows. They look like they're in heaven. They've got the wings on, and so I challenge you, as you finish your lunch, to discuss what would be a good caption for that comic. All right? All right, you got the assignment, and then, so we'll give Mendy, we have 15 minutes or so to finish lunch and see what you can come up with.
Well, Tim, I think you got people talking. And I honestly, this is, for those of you who know me really well, I can't stand this part because I don't like to bring down the conversation. But I am excited too because I get to introduce our speaker. So thank you for the conversation. I will bring Tim up in a minute so that he can follow through with finding out what your great captions are. I wanted to share with you a little bit about our speakers. And the common thread of all the speakers that we've had over the years has been this entrepreneurial mindset, a set of beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that help them identify and pursue opportunities, overcome obstacles, and succeed. Today's speaker not only has an entrepreneurial mindset, but also has built a unique set of skills that allow him to thrive cross-culturally and globally. In an increasing interconnected world, it is important to go beyond the fundamental entrepreneurial mindset and adopt this global mindset and perspective. This kind of mindset isn't limited to world travelers or those who have experienced different cultures. It's a mindset that encourages people to view the world through a broader lens of curiosity and acceptance. It requires shifting one's worldview to recognize that there is no normal or right. Instead, it's about appreciating and understanding many coexisting perspectives. A global mindset and an entrepreneurial mindset share significant similarities, including strong openness to new ideas, a willingness to adapt to different cultures and environments, a proactive approach to identifying opportunities, a comfort with uncertainty, and a constant drive to learn and innovate across diverse contexts. I am delighted to introduce today's speaker, Tim Dilley, a 1981 graduate of Fresno State, someone who has built a career based on an entrepreneurial and a global skill set. Tim has spent over 40 years helping businesses use technology to grow, innovate, and improve performance. Tim's unique skill set has been developed through his years working as a senior executive in large-scale publicly traded organizations, as well as guiding young companies in building their operations with minimal external funding, focusing on efficiency, resource allocation, strategic decision-making, lean methodologies, and, in essence, the art of bootstrapping. So he's worked in very large organizations, and he's worked with startups, a very unique skill set to share with our students. After graduating from Fresno State with a bachelor's in science and business administration with an emphasis in accounting, Tim began his career with Price Waterhouse as a system analyst. Early in his consulting career, Tim was with Myers Holem, where he spent 5 years implementing financial applications. From there, he co-founded Axiom Management Consulting, a management information technology consulting firm. The next leg of his journey took him to Andersen Consulting, now Accenture, where he was an associate partner for Worldwide Utilities Consumer Services. Following these 18 years of building a career in technical consulting services, Tim was asked to join Informatica Corporation. This publicly traded enterprise software company provides data integration products and services to the top 2,000 public companies worldwide. While at Informatica, Tim managed global professional services, educational services, customer support, and maintenance renewal services. In 2006, Tim joined NetSuite, a year before NetSuite went public on the New York Stock Exchange. In 2008, NetSuite released its global management software suite, NetSuite One World, to provide seamless global support for multinational organizations. As the Executive VP of Worldwide Services and Chief Customer Officer, Tim oversaw the organization's global initiatives in professional service, training, customer support, and customer service. The 8 years Tim was at NetSuite were an exciting time for that organization and probably for Tim's growth professionally. They grew by both organic as well as via organic methods as well as through acquisition. Tim left NetSuite in 2015, a year before Oracle acquired the company. Following his time at NetSuite, Tim founded Enforce Consulting, a consulting firm specializing in cloud application implementation. In 2023, Enforce and their Australian company, their first international, if I'm correct, entrance into the international world, they had an office in Australia, was sold to Deloitte Consulting. After that time, Tim became a very respected consultant, mentor, and advisor to software executives in public, private equity, and venture-backed companies. Tim Dilley has built a career challenging people, building confidence, and coaching employees and clients to achieve their best, consistently and collaboratively. His growth and global mindset have contributed to a highly successful career. We are fortunate that Tim is paying it forward today, not only sharing his experiences, but also being a real true friend to Fresno State, to the Craig School of Business, and to the Lyle Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Please join me in welcoming Tim Dilley. There you go.
Thank you so much, Mendy. All right. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Did everybody work on their caption? Okay. All right. So what I think I'll do is I will give you my caption, and then we'll see if somebody can one-up that. I heard a pretty good one in the back there. So, all right. So my version of this is, and this kind of dates myself. I grew up, when I was a young kid, I grew up in the 60s, and the 60s were about what musical act? The Beatles, right? So I was a big Beatles fan. So my caption is, I went to meet John Lennon, but the line was 2 years long. All right, who can beat that one? Okay.
So our best choice was, we drank too much Red Bull.
Very good. Can I get the one in the back? I like the one in the back. Oh, you're eating, sorry. One more time? I forgot something down there. Ooh, angel investor. A little play on words there. I like that. Anybody else who wants to offer? Yes, right here.
Wait, there's no Wi-Fi up here?
There's no Wi-Fi up here. Good, good, good. In the back there? I like that. You're in a Dodgers hat, so I will let this slide. Okay. Monkey see, monkey do. Okay. That's how they ended up there. Julie, can I get one from? No? Okay. One more. Yes. I like that one very much. All right. And do these wings make me look fat? Bert, yes.
No, I'm pretty sure we're in heaven. Fresno State just beat Ohio State.
All right. That's a long-winded one. So. All right. Thank you so much for participating in that. Hopefully that gets us engaged in the conversation. I'm bringing the receipts here. So I am a Fresno State grad. As I was invited by Mendy and by Kenya to speak today, I have to say I had a little trepidation about engaging or joining the program. I only spent 4 years of my life in Fresno. So I grew up in the Bay Area, and I came to Fresno State, and then I've lived in San Francisco and then traveled for business ever since then. So as I've seen the other presentations that have been delivered here at Pay It Forward, often it's somebody from Fresno that lives in Fresno and has a Fresno business. Seems to be a lot of what the presentations are. So my presentation is going to open the aperture a little bit, and I'm going to talk about how I was able to take my great education here at Fresno State and launch it into a career where I really did work around the world. So I'm going to try and open up the aperture for the possibilities that one can achieve with a Fresno State degree. I have such a debt to Fresno State. I learned so much. You know, you go away to college, and if you move away, it doesn't really matter if you move to the Central Valley from the Bay Area or if you move across the country, you're away from home. I had to get work to get myself through college, so I learned a lot, and I owe a lot to Fresno State. Really did provide a great start for me. This is something that I saw in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago, right, Julie? Was this about a year ago? So Fresno State ranked number 4 in upward mobility of their students, which I think is very accurate. Certainly is going to be is certainly the case for myself. So this is something I really do endorse. All right. So quick background on myself. So I did grow up in the Bay Area. Like many of you, I believe I was the first member of my family to go to college. My father worked at Kraft Foods. He was my parents met during World War II, if you can believe that. And my father never went to college, but took some accounting classes. He worked at Kraft Foods. My mother was a secretary. I had a brother and sister that were older. They did not go to college. And I was accepted at San Jose State, went there, didn't like it, had some friends from Burlingame that were down here, enjoyed Fresno State, and made the switch. So I came in 1977, which is a long time ago. I've spoken at a couple of classes in the last year or so. The thing that I always remember about that's so different today is in the 1970s, some of the instructors used to smoke in class. Could you imagine somebody doing that today? It's just insane. But Harold Haslam, Dr. Haslam, a great math teacher, but he would go through 3 Marlboro cigarettes in the course of a class, if you can believe that. So things have changed a bit. So this is my profession. I worked my career 40 years in technology consulting. And so what does that mean? That means a company buys a piece of technology, either hardware or software, and then to make use of it, to deploy it within their business, they often hire a consultant. And so the consultant works with the company, modifies or adapts the technology to the corporation that's buying it, and then that becomes that customer's solution. So that's what I did. So you think of an accounting package, something that runs the accounting department. You have to set up that company's chart of accounts. You have to migrate their old data in there, and then the consultant does that work. So there are many different types of consultants. There are the strategists. So McKinsey and Bain Consulting. Those are folks that tell people what markets to invest in and real high-level business strategy. There's the work that I did, that alongside I did work for some of the global, what they call system integrators, which is the same thing as technology consulting. And then there are millions of small niche consultants that are out there. So as an example today, so who's familiar with Salesforce? Are people familiar with that company? So in technology consulting, that's the cash cow today. So they are a very big company, billions of dollars in revenue. They sell a lot of software, and they themselves don't want to do the systems work around that. So they rely heavily on the consulting community to provide those services. So it's estimated a $20 billion market. There are 200-some thousand Salesforce consultants out there. My most recent startup, we did do some work in the Salesforce ecosystem. It's a very profitable one. Accenture has 50,000 Salesforce consultants. Deloitte probably has 40,000 and so forth. So that's a good example of the kind of work that I did for 40-some years, some variety of that. So this is my first job. And the first kind of point that I want to put forward. So I started with, as Mendy mentioned, I started with Price Waterhouse after I graduated in 1981. I joined this startup class. There was basically one or two people from every major office. It was heavily slanted to the East Coast. Price Waterhouse was headquartered in New York. And so you can see the schools that participated there. There were all these private schools like Duke and SMU and USC, and then I was the kid from Fresno State in the middle there. Many people had no idea where Fresno was and knew who Fresno State was. But this leads me to my first point for you all, is that once you get started with work, nobody really cares where you went to school. And I was in consulting. And consulting's all about being able to deliver work to a customer that they will pay for. And somebody said early on, well, I can't charge more for you because of what school you went to. It's all about the work that you deliver. So my encouragement, I'm glad to see, you're here and you're engaged, you're at Fresno State, get your degree. And that's a huge milestone. Get the degree, and then you can go, I think the world's your oyster. So people a degree is a degree. That's the milestone. And that's what I learned very early on. So if I look at my career, I'm going to kind of step through my career, and then I want to go through the global lessons that I learned. So the first three jobs I had I started with Price Waterhouse for a couple of years. Then I worked with two small consulting firms that worked with a particular kind of technology. This shows how old these things are. Computer Associates doesn't exist anymore. This company called KnowledgeWare, they don't exist anymore. So these software companies do come and go, but we were able to provide services for those companies. Now the last one, Axiom Management Consulting, was my first consulting startup. So we were able to grow that to about 75 people, about $10 million or $12 million in revenue. So who wants to be an entrepreneur? Yeah? Great. So this was my first startup. This is kind of how the media portrays a startup. There's a lot of lines that go to the moon, and a lot of thumbs ups, and so I learned a lot. This first startup, I learned many lessons, and I'll share a few of those with you. So it was Axiom Information Consulting. We rebranded it at one point to Axiom Management Consulting. We had a great run. We started from nothing, completely bootstrapped, no outside financing. We were able to get it to in 92. We almost hit $10 million. At the end of that year, we were generating $1 million a month in revenue. So we're on pace for $12 million. And then you can see what happened in 93 and 94. What do you notice about the line there? It kind of stays at 12 million. So that we kind of plateaued. And I was a co-founder. I had 3 other co-founders, and fingers start pointing, profits start to go away, and I ended up leaving the firm. Very contentious departure with my partners there. Not a lot of fun. And then a year later, the company was actually sold. So, but I learned a lot in this startup, and I would emphasize 2 things. The first is the reality of what it means to do a startup doesn't hit you until you have to make payroll the first time. So if you think about a company that we've grown to be $12 million, we're making $1 million a month, we're making maybe $100,000. So that means that we have payroll of about $400,000 every 2 weeks. And we had no outside funding. So if we couldn't collect on an invoice, if we couldn't bill a customer, we had real troubles in doing this. And so that's what caused a lot of the friction as we started to plateau, profitability went down. So it wasn't until I got into that seat that I understood the responsibility of making payroll. You know, we had 75 employees, and they're depending on you to to provide payroll every 2 weeks. So it's a lot of responsibility, a lot of great reward, a lot of things to be learned from it, but it's not for the faint of heart, is what I would say there. And then the other big thing that I learned in that startup was that business is a lot of things, but success in business results from your ability to sell. That at the end of the day, to grow a business, you have to be able to sell the business. And so I was a consultant, and I could deliver the consulting project, but I had to learn how to sell the consulting project before it could get delivered. And as a co-founder, a lot of the sales, rested on my shoulders and my co-founders. So that was something that I did not anticipate going in to that startup, and that is the real big takeaway for me on my first startup was I learned that selling is the skill in business. And that means you have to be able to articulate a value proposition, as they say, to a customer, and you have to be able to convince them, to part with their money and take an invoice from you and pay that invoice. So that was the next thing I learned. Now, at that point in my career, I was about 35 years old. And I had started Pricewaterhouse for a big company for a couple of years. I'd worked at this other, I was the first employee at this other startup, Myers Holm, and then I did my own startup. So I was kind of 12, 13 years into my career, and I had worked primarily in startup consulting organizations. And so I had left after a big blow up with my partners, and I had to come clean to myself that there was a lot about consulting I didn't know. We made it up as we went along. We were in our late 20s when we started Axiom, and we were kind of fumbling around. We spent in every meeting that we were talking about, what do we do on salaries or how do we do on billing, we would always ask, well, what do the big companies do? We'd always say, what does Anderson Consulting do to these situations? So after I left, I said, well, look, there's a lot I don't know about consulting. I took a step down, if you will, and I went from being a co-founder of a $12 million company, and I took a job as a manager within Anderson Consulting. And for me, that was my PhD or my MBA in consulting. So I just devoured all of their processes and how they ran the business and how they rewarded employees, how they billed their customers, and so forth. So that was a huge learning for me. But it took me to have some amount of humility to say, look, there's a lot that I don't know about the field that I'm in. And so from there, I was then able to, I only worked at Anderson Consulting for 3 years. And then, as Mendy mentioned, I then was able then to go get jobs in much larger companies with global roles, global opportunities. So I went to, the Anderson Consulting role, I was in their global utilities practice. Utilities in the late 90s were being deregulated. So I went to Europe quite a bit to talk to European utilities about how they were deregulating. And then I started with Informatica as in a global role with their enterprise software. And then I went to NetSuite. And then after I left NetSuite, as Mendy mentioned, I did a second startup called Enforce Consulting and brought a lot of my lessons learned to that. So what I want to do for the next bit, though, is to talk about what did I learn as in my global roles and open up, as I said, open up the aperture on what one can do in their career. So in my career, so I've 40-some years as a consultant, I have been to 43 states. So, and by be there, I mean I have spent a night in 43 states. So I've not just driven through. I've spent a night in 43 states. I think it's like, Iowa, Alabama, Mississippi, I haven't been to. There's 4 others. But I have been to that. I have also been to 25 countries. I recently, on a flight with United Airlines, I was awarded my 3 million mile, little medallion. The pilot came back and actually said, I don't think I've got 3 million miles. But when you travel as broadly and widely, so I've been to Australia probably 20 times. That is a long flight. That's a long way away. That's 15,000 miles. So I've done a lot of travel. And I will point out that I did all of this. I got married in '94. And so it was really as I was getting into this line of work that I was raising 2 daughters. So we were able to figure that out. It was a big challenge. I have a lot of tips on how you do that and how you manage that. But that was obviously an added stress to say, look, kids, I'm going to be gone for 10 days. I'm going to Europe, trip around Europe and so forth. So that is tough. But my message is it can be done. You can get through that. So here are, places I've been. I don't know why I have a Cal Poly shirt on the Great Wall of China. I have no idea how. So I may have bought that in China because I didn't have a T-shirt for that trip. So I've been in Sydney, Australia. We opened an office in the Philippines when I was at NetSuite, and we built a huge team out there, support team in the Philippines. India, that's from the UK. I was in the UK so often, they knew my birthday at the hotel that I went to. So I did, quite a bit of travel. And so here's a list of all the countries that I went to for all this travel. So a lot in Europe. I'm with my friend here, Bert Crone. So places that I really enjoyed. Singapore is a really very interesting place, and the food is amazing. The food in Asia in general seems to be amazing. And then the tradition in Europe is so interesting. Australia, those mates are good mates. So I've enjoyed all this travel. But I want to kind of wrap up with some lessons learned of what it means to work and to manage global teams. Okay? So the first thing when you get global responsibility and you go over to the UK, usually start in the UK. You go over to the UK and you meet with the team that you're assuming responsibility for over there. And the first thing they always tell you is it's different over here. They always say it's different. And that is not true. Business is business, capitalism is cap. They're usually trying to argue for lower numbers, like, oh, you can't make those kinds of numbers over. Like in the States, it's go-go. You guys can grow like that. We can only grow so much here. It's different. And you just have to say, no, business is business, capitalism is capitalism. There's different cultures, and you need to respect that. But at the end of the day, business is business. So that's number one. Number two is you are managing people a long way away. And the person you're managing, whether it's in Asia or out in Europe, they will say, don't worry about me, boss. I'm the first one in the office and the last one to leave. So my advice on that is trust but verify. So I have gotten completely burned on that in the past when I was told by my manager in Europe that this was their situation And then finally I find out that he never went into the office. And so you trust but verify on that. All right, next. This is a faux pas a lot of people make is they'll say, okay, you're going out to Australia. Why don't you go up and visit Japan while you're there, right? Makes sense. Well, it's an 11-hour flight from Sydney to Tokyo and only 9 hours from San Francisco. So that makes another point is Asia is huge. It's a huge, huge part of the earth. So, but I can't tell you how many times I heard that comment, like, you should go out and visit our, no, it's, if I want to go to Tokyo, I'll go to Tokyo. All right, so speaking of Tokyo, you will be told that Tokyo is what, the third largest economy in the world, right? And so every growing, expanding company should want to do business in Japan, right? Japan, so you will hear Japan is a massive opportunity. We need to go into Japan. So you first want to go to English-speaking countries. Japan is an incredibly opaque country. It's very difficult. The language, what you learn in Japan is that an 8-year-old, an 8th grader cannot read the newspaper. The language is so complex and has so many layers to it that it is incredibly difficult to do business there and to understand what's going on. There, I was telling Bert a story of a trip we took there. We met with a partner's general manager in Japan that had been educated in the US, and we thought that guy was amazing. Gosh, we should recruit him to run our practice. Our guy had very poor English skills. It was very tough to understand what was going on. We should hire that guy. 6 months later, he was caught cooking the books over there. So Japan is very opaque. It's a very difficult market. Once you get in and can get established and you get the right team in place, it's obviously a very big economy, but there's layers to it, and the food is amazing. So the food is absolutely amazing. All right, so that is the kind of the summary of my career and what I've learned over the years. I did have some great successes. I was able to be on the New York Stock Exchange podium when NetSuite went public in December of 2007. So there at the end. So my kids were in the room. Were on the stock exchange floor below me. That was really a great highlight of my career. A lot of fun, and we had a great run as a public company. And then Mendy mentioned a couple of years ago, I was able to sell my most recent startup to Deloitte, and so was able to do a strategic transaction with them. I learned a lot in doing that. That was a deal that I sourced. I found somebody in Deloitte willing to buy our practice, and was able to get that negotiated and closed. So I learned a lot doing that. So that is an overview of my career and what I was able to do with my Fresno State education. I'd like to conclude with this question. So what do you think I would say is the most important decision of my life? Yes? Ha! That is exactly what I would say. So this is my wife, Teresa, my 2 daughters, Samantha and Kate. By far, the most important decision you make in your life is your partner. By far. So choose your partner very carefully. I just 100%. This is the most important thing that you do. So this is my summary of how to take your Fresno State education and have a great career is get to the starting line, get your degree, get through your classes. I know it's never easy, but get your degree. Entrepreneurship, I encourage, but it is serious business. And don't take it lightly. There is something, there are challenges there that you're gonna face. The best skill you can learn as a business person is how to sell, how to get somebody to part with their money. So everybody has to do that. So you can't say, look, I'm just in HR, I don't have to sell. No, in fact, if you're in HR, you're trying to hire people. You have to sell the company. So everybody has to learn to sell. Be honest with yourself, as I did kind of midway through my career. And if you're willing to sacrifice, and traveling 3 million miles in 30 years was a big sacrifice, but was able, I was able to get some great rewards that came with that. And then last but certainly not least, choose your partner very, very carefully. So those are my remarks.
There are so many points that stood out to me, and especially when you go through those last points, his recap. At our company, we had a saying, if you think there's something more important than a customer, think again. Everybody was in sales, whether you were if you were in shipping, logistics, manufacturing, marketing, accounting, we were all in the business for the customer. So the advice to learn how to sell is critical, especially learning how to sell yourself and your skills, especially when you go out and as you're sitting at these tables, talking to people, practice. It's really good. The other thing I really loved about listening to Tim's story was, there's no straight line to a career. A career has lots of different paths. You can turn right, you can turn left, you can go backwards and do U-turns, you can have hard stops. There's not one way to do it. Your journey is your journey. And what I really appreciated was when Tim spoke about his ability to say, I need to learn more. How am I going to do that? That's significant, and that takes a lot of courage and effort, but as you can see, it really paid off in the long run. And then I'm just excited to talk to somebody that has also shared in international business development. That's my passion. I've spent 30 years of my career doing that as well. Tim is absolutely right. I wouldn't say Japan. I had to choose between China and India, and it was a hard decision. But honestly, the advice that he's given, it's well worth it. It is business, but people are different, and you have to appreciate the differences. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. But business is business, and everybody wants to succeed, and if you can do a win-win, it's pretty amazing. So many lessons that Tim provided today, and it's with great gratitude that I thank you for being with us, but I know that there are questions. So who has some questions? We have a mic somewhere. Okay, Kelly has a mic here. And there's a mic up here. We need you to speak up because it's sometimes hard to hear in the back, the questions. So who wants to go first? Okay, we'll go this one, and then we're going to go that one. So go ahead, go first.
Is it on? Okay.
Yes.
So you mentioned selling, and I wanted to ask.
What's your name?
David.
Hey, David.
David. Yeah.
Thanks for being first to ask a question.
Yeah. Thank you. But I wanted to know what is the best way, or if there are multiple ways to learn how to sell. Would it be to experience it firsthand, or learning through books, or if there's any other ways you might suggest?
You have to get out there. You have to learn to be comfortable speaking. And so in my first startup, we had a business that was a training business. So around that software that we worked with, we got into the market selling training classes. And so I would have to lead, and I barely knew the software, but I had to learn the software well enough to be able to lead, a 4-day class. So I got a lot of public speaking experience doing that, and then just felt more and more comfortable and felt more and more, at ease in trying to put forth, our services as we were trying to sell it to whatever companies.
Okay.
So find opportunities to be comfortable speaking to a group, and then practice and take your lumps. So there's going to be lumps along the way, but get as many at bats as you possibly can. Sales is really just a numbers thing.
Yeah.
So you just have to, if you can bat 250, you're doing well in sales.
Yeah.
So get as many as bats as you possibly can.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David.
Hi, my name is Jay. I'm from Fresno City College.
Hello, Jay.
Hi. My question for you is, you talked about the most important decision in your life. What do you believe is the worst decision that you've made? And by decision, I don't mean a personal life choice decision. I mean the worst business decision that you made. What have you learned from it? And or looking back on it, what would you do different now?
100%. I've got an answer for you, David. After my first startup, I mentioned that I left and then it was sold a year later. So one might think, did they know that there was somebody looking to buy the company before I left? And I sued them. Was an enormous mistake. So trying to right something that you view as a wrong through a lawsuit is foolish. You will burn a lot of money. You will burn a lot of mental capital. I was obsessed I was at Anderson Consulting for 9 months. Every waking thought was about that lawsuit. It consumed me, and in the end, I didn't win. So if you feel you get wronged in your career, beat them in the marketplace. That's where the reward comes from. Was an enormous mistake.
Great question, Jay. Is there another question? Yes, and then Bertha after this.
Hi, sir. My name's Jesus Cano.
Hey,
and,
Jesus, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good.
All right. So I got brought here by my professor, Dr. Tanya. She's over there.
Okay.
Professor. Came here from an entrepreneurship class, and from an entrepreneurship perspective, I was always wondering, when you start a business, sometimes you feel like you're really small compared to the market that you're in. But due to how globalization has basically taken over, business in the world is actually really small. You can connect with more people out. You're very well traveled, so obviously you know. So what advice would you give to a startup to take advantage of opportunities that aren't exactly local, more distant, so that way you could grow faster, or even just grow at a steady pace?
Well, I guess, Jesus, I would caution you against that. A startup is all about focus, and you don't want to be in a grass is always greener kind of mindset that okay, we're having trouble selling in California, say, gosh, if we could only sell in New York, we'd have more sales. Like that, you should fix what's going on in California, just to use that as an example. So focus is really important. A startup is about getting to some level of critical mass, there's the famous startup book called 0 to 1. How do you get it to 1? Right? Peter Thiel, right? So how do you get to 1? So that takes focus. So once to answer your question, once you do get out there, then I'd just be very disciplined and evaluate the markets, because they're going to be different. And I'd be careful about expanding.
I'd add to that, depending on the product that you're trying to sell and its uniqueness, after you have stayed very focused and all the stages up and you've done as much research as you can, I have found in my experience that sometimes we had a manufactured product that was accepted more readily outside of the country, an engineered manufactured product, than it was in the US at the time. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I'm not even keeping my own words. Sorry about that, guys. What I have found is once you've done all the work and you've had focus and you've done your research and you've tried everything that you can, depending on your product and your service, we had a manufactured engineered product that honestly had greater acceptance in the engineering community outside of the US than it did in the US. We found that our US market was very slow adopters to the technology. That was our last resort, and we didn't go flying into it. We actually started attending trade shows and started learning the markets, and then we selectively chose maybe the English-speaking ones, maybe ones that were more easy to do business with. But that is after you've done a lot. As a startup, I hear you have a lot of focus and work to do in your own markets. Once you've scaled some, there are other possibilities just depending on what you're trying to sell. Okay, Bertha?
No, it's not on.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
All right. Hi, everyone. Bertha Flores here, representing Fresno's leading young professionals, and I'm a realtor with Altura Realty. So my question to you is, you mentioned there was a lot of lessons learned from your sell to Deloitte. I wanted to know what were your top 3 takeaways of your lessons learned?
I think the first thing I learned, I was involved in a number of conversations prior to that transaction, where I was talking to companies that were interested in the business, and there's the expression that you do the pitch, and the customer, the prospect, bites hard, and so I had a bunch of lukewarm meetings that kind of meandered and went nowhere. And then I had a 20-minute call, and that individual bit hard. And it was like, okay, that's one we can get closed. So that was the big thing I learned there. The other big lesson learned in selling a company is companies are bought, not sold. Meaning that you can try and sell your company, but you're going to run into a lot of people that are marginally interested. You have to find somebody that's actually in the market and wants to buy. So at some level, so you got to find the buyer. You got to find somebody that's a real buyer. So companies are bought, not sold. Those are my 2. So can I get by with just 2 instead of 3? Okay, thank you, Bertha.
Okay, other question right here?
Yep.
There's the mic right there. If you want to use it.
Hi, my name is Alexis Vega. I'm part of Dr. Tanyan's entrepreneur class. And my question is, what is one mistake businesses often make when expanding globally?
What is a common mistake? It's usually in hiring. It's usually who you hire, because you have to build a team out there. And hiring abroad is difficult. Like I gave the example of somebody telling me they were the first in the office and the last to leave. So that's the real challenge, I think, is how do you build that team out there and make sure that they're on board with the mission of the company, and they're going to work hard for the company, and there's not alternative motivations going on. That's often the case, is you'll hire somebody and they've actually got some side business going on or something of that sort. So the hiring, I think, is the most important thing.
Thank you.
You have to be really careful with that. And you often have to go through multiple people. So don't be afraid to recognize it's not working. Move on. So that's my other bit of advice. Yes.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Herndon. I'm from Dr. Tanyan's
Hi, Kaylee.
entrepreneurship class as well. Hi. I was just wondering if there was something, like, if you could go back and tell your younger self something you wish you knew before you started the journey, like, what would that be?
Don't get involved in a lawsuit. That You know, I had a degree in accounting, and I chose not to sit for the CPA exam when I started my career. And I was at Price Waterhouse, so I could have gotten a CPA certification there at Price Waterhouse. And I was too lazy, to be honest. I didn't want to put the effort in after work to study for the exam and take the exam. So getting a CPA, so I've done my career with just my Fresno State BS credential. That's the only credential I have. So not having another credential, it would have been helpful. So that would be so don't be lazy. Like certainly early in your career, I should have spent the time. I should have not, played tennis. I should have studied for the CPA exam. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep. We had one over here as well. So. Yep.
Hi, I'm Smith. I'm an electrical engineer.
Do we have an electrical engineer that can fix the microphones?
So, as a student, I think you took two leaps in your life to start a startup. One was early in your career after your first job, and one was years later after you've globally expanded yourself. What made you do that, to take a leap? Okay, now I'm ready to start it. After stopping it, you again went into learning how things go, and then you started it again.
Yep.
After a long amount of years. So what made you think that, okay, now I am ready in both of those stages?
So the reason that I did a startup, my second startup, is that I had worked at two publicly traded software companies, and so you can make money on the equity that you receive from those companies. In 2016, late 2015, 2016, tech valuations were very high, and there wasn't that sort of opportunity out there. So the best way to get equity participation was to start my own company and start at zero. So the valuation of my own startup was going to be zero, and if I could build any value in that business, it would accrue towards me. So that was why I did it. I did it because at that point in my career, I didn't want to just make a salary. I wanted to have some equity that came along with it, and it wasn't available in the marketplace. So.
Batui,
Yes.
She brings her whole class. She's a professor of entrepreneurship. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so very much for taking the time and
Yes.
coming here.
Enjoyed
Thank you. So my question is, I have two questions. The first question is, what has
We
it
have a
been?
quota. We have one. So.
Okay, I'll sum them up. What has it been like to become part of Oracle? And could you?
I wasn't there.
Oh, I see.
So I left NetSuite a year before they were acquired by Oracle.
Oh, I see.
So I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories, but I don't have any personal experience.
Gotcha. So my second question is, given the competitive landscape today and the fact that the U.S. government has been investing heavily or started investing heavily in AI and building infrastructure for AI and pouring money into companies such as Oracle and many other companies that are using AI, what do you think what are some of the current opportunities for your company that got acquired by Oracle, but also like generally speaking for that space, opportunities and threats, and what about your competitors, biggest competitors such as SAP or Microsoft or Amazon?
So it's a great question. So you're asking kind of what opportunities might exist because of AI.
Correct.
So as I look at what AI is doing to enterprise software and the consulting business, I'm glad that I'm retired. Because I have, in my 40-year career, I've been through at least three of these kind of platform shifts. The biggest one for me was when at NetSuite, where the whole world moved to the cloud. And that was a big change, big disruption in the way companies bought software. It's going to go through an equal, and then there was the mobile revolution after that. And now nobody talks about cloud, it's all AI. It's gonna, I don't know. And it's a little daunting to me when I am advising a few AI software startups, and it's a bit daunting to me to think about how they're gonna run their business. So my quick answer is I don't know.
We appreciate your candor.
I don't know. It's going to be tremendous, but this is a great time to enter the market because there's disruption. So that's when you want to get in. So the advice that I hear is everybody should be subscribe to the AI tools, get used to using them in your day-to-day work, and just consume it because that's the way you're going to do business in the years ahead. And we don't know what that's going to look like, but
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. Here, we had a question. Yeah. Sorry, I got you right when you took a bite.
Hello, everyone. My name is Romy, and I just have two questions.
Yeah, Romy.
So when you first got into business, when you first started out, did it start out when you had to do things solely, or was it more of a group at first?
So when I started with Pricewaterhouse, I was in a group.
Okay.
Was definitely in a group. I did that training class where we did some group projects, but then I went on a 9-month assignment to the state of Alaska, to Juneau, Alaska, which is 20,000 people with no roads in or out, and the dead of winter, and it was pretty challenging. But that was a big group project. So I had one particular thing to do, and had to interact with another 30-some people that were on that project.
So while you were in this group, was there a challenge that this group had when it had to come to fast pace in certain things, or like last minute deadlines you may have encountered?
Yeah, so the thing I learned on that project was we fell behind, and so we had to start working 7 days a week.
Oh, geez.
And so now I was in Juneau, Alaska. There was nothing to do. And on weekends you didn't have to put on a suit, but that was the only. So when you fall behind, you have to do what you have to do. So because the deadline and the due date doesn't move. You may be behind, but you got to put the effort in.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Ron. Yep.
Hi, my name is Trevor Denier, and I'm a entrepreneurship here.
Hi, Trevor.
My question pertains to your hiring process, specifically when you're starting up a company or when you're going to a foreign market. And my question is about the hiring process before and after you hire someone. So how do you know before you hire someone that this guy is the right guy? And then what do they show afterwards that prove that your intuition was correct about this person? Maybe an example.
Well, don't assume it's a guy. So
someone,
often
sorry.
it is, so open the aperture. But hiring is really challenging when you're starting out, certainly when you're doing a startup. You hire whoever you can sell the vision to. And you have to be prepared for those people to come in and out. So if I looked at my second startup, the first 50 people that we hired, probably 15 stuck. So it's because because you have to stretch yourself. I can remember with my partner in my second startup, we were looking at our first hire, and he was interviewing this fellow that was wearing a suit and those deck shoes, so it was kind of a mismatched kind of look, if you will. And so he was like, we should take a chance, we should hire this fellow. And I said, would you send him to a customer to fix a problem on his own? And he said, you're right, there's no way I would do that. And so we passed on that. So hiring is really a challenge, certainly when you're doing a startup, because you have to get somebody to take the leap and to join your vision, and then you're going to take some chances that you probably wouldn't take. In hiring in general, I do have I've done a lot of interviewing, so I have my consulting questions that I ask. And so I have so you have to have a process for interviews. You want to assess people during an interview. You don't want to do all the talking. You want to ask them, get them talking, do some role play. So we had all sorts of techniques for doing it, but you have to have a process to hiring. So.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Claudia Lopez. I'm a career counselor on campus.
Hello, Claudia.
Hi. My question is, given your extensive expertise in global business, what key advice would you share with international students nearing graduation to help them navigate the job market currently?
How to get hired, or
How to get hired, or how they can begin their own startup, given the current politics and the situation going on?
well, at some level, so you have to, if you're interviewing and trying to get hired, the frustration that most employers have is they think the people they're hiring are not hardworking. So I think you need to demonstrate the grit and the desire to work hard. And you have to use examples of what you've done in the past to do that. Working internationally, I think, is a difficult thing to do early in your career. I think you need to get skills, and then look to, if you have an opportunity to work abroad, I would definitely take that. The amount that you learn from doing a project or an assignment abroad is tremendous. So hopefully that answers your question.
Probably two more questions, and then we'll go back in the back first with Pearl,
Okay.
and then we'll come up here in the front.
Hello, sir. My name's Hayden Tarr. I'm a student here at Fresno State.
Hello, Hayden. Don't call me sir, please. Call me Tim.
My question for you is, what attributes or abilities do you see most young entrepreneurs are missing? Like the ones that you advise and that you kind of oversee what they're doing. What attributes or ability? Is it hard work or leadership, or what do you think most
Well,
up-and-comers
I'll
are
just give you an
missing?
example of the startup that I'm dealing with. These are technologists that have written a pretty impressive piece of software, and they have entrepreneurial experience in a B2C fashion. And so they sold some products on Amazon, and they were able to get those products out there, got them priced, and ding, 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 their phone rang with sales. Now they're building an enterprise, if you will, or a business-to-business product, and so they don't appreciate what it's going to mean to go sell. Like, how are you going to sell this thing? And so I'm actually visiting them in New York in a couple weeks, and we're going to go through what does their pitch look like, because they've sold it to friendlies, people they know or people that get introduced through their network. But I'm challenging them to think, okay, you're gonna get on the phone with somebody that doesn't really want to talk to you, and they've got 10 minutes, and you've got to get them convinced that this is something. And they're like, oh, well, I said, so it's got to be tight. It's got to be a very tight message. What are your 3 things that you want to get across to these people? So that's the advice I give. So again, all comes down to selling.
Okay, and then I think there's a question up here.
All right.
Hi, my name is Jesus Savina, and
Hey.
I'm a Fresno State student in Dr. Tonoyan's entrepreneur class. And
All
I
right.
just had a quick question. Did you ever have a mentor or someone you looked
yeah.
up to, and why?
Great question, great question. So probably my best mentor was at Anderson Consulting. The fellow that hired me there, his name was Henry McIntosh. He was from Atlanta and went by the name Hawk McIntosh. And he taught me so much about selling. He was like, sales is jazz was his big theme. Is jazz, you have to be able to improvise and so on. So I worked with Hawk for I was only there for 4 years, but he, if I would look back on my career, that was really a great mentor for me. So it took me 13 years into my career to find that person because I was doing all these startups. So, but once I found somebody that was, and Hawk was 10 years older than me or something like that, but I really latched on and spent as much time as I possibly could with him. I mean, how do you find I would just say don't be shy about asking. So can I follow up with you? I'd love to pick your brain, or I'd love to ask you some questions, describe kind of what you're doing, but don't be shy. Ask. People love to give advice and love to mentor people. I think everybody enjoys doing it. So, but don't be afraid to ask.
Well, and I would say, I think you're all students sitting at that table, am I right? Yeah, we have one community member, but really, it's in places like this. You do not know where you're going to find somebody you can connect with. And Tim is correct. People do want to help, and people want to listen, and they might not be the right person for you, but maybe they know somebody else. So come to events like this. There's so many great events around campus. Go and sit with somebody you don't know and just start, asking and talking, and you'll find those people that really want to support you. There's nothing better than having a mentor, and you can have multiple mentors throughout your life, depending on where you're going and where you're